a lot of the other content creators, they talk about players saying they're great buys. Did they ever buy them? No. But why? Because they're using these programs and they're worried about their rank. They're not there to win it.
In the first part of this series, which is addressing the moral conundrum over whether I should embrace FPL's analytics, FPL Fran became the first guest on my channel, and he gave a fantastic breakdown of why I should embrace these programs, how they will only make me a better FPL manager, and why I should feel no guilt about embracing the projection models. And I'm going to be honest with you, like I always am. FPL Fran made a fantastic case, and he has me seriously interested in experimenting with these programs to see if they can improve and perhaps save my season. However, I know that I am someone who can be easily influenced by a charismatic man telling me what I want to hear, so I need someone to put the other side of the case, and there is nobody in this world better at making the anti-analytics argument than my man, the FPL D-Unit. This conversation is fantastic. It gets right to the heart of what I love about the anti-analytics approach, and I actually wonder if it might convince some of those algorithm acolytes to embrace their instinctive desires. I hope you enjoy it, and without any further ado, here is the legend in the making himself, the FPL D-Unit. So this is the second guest on the channel, and I'm sure you all know him because his channel is far bigger than mine and he is on your TV screen every day. But for those of you who don't, my guest today is the FPL Firestarter, blazing his own trail through this game we all love. And it has been a story of constant progression, with 2 years in the 200Ks, then 2 years just outside the top 100K, before gate crashing the top 5K last season, playing the game his way on his own terms. The world knows him as FPL D-Unit, and what the D stands for we just don't know. But what we do know is he is daring, he is dangerous, he is absolutely delightful, and to me he has become my mate Darius. And he saw that debate with Fran and he was disgusted at what he saw, because he could tell I am being swayed by the allure of the algorithms. So today Darius is going to make the other side of the argument, and in this battle of Sol versus Solio, he is the Skywalker trying to save me from the dark side. Thank you for coming on, mate. How are you doing?
Oh, what an introduction. Honestly, I can't believe it. I'm on the Nightmare channel. People have been calling out for this, and I don't even know what to say. I'm blown away by that intro. I don't know how long you've rehearsed that for, but the poet is officially up and about.
I could give you a little secret. I just dragged a little text file over the top of my camera and I read it out loud. But yeah, I'm very excited to have you on. Obviously, you're only the second guest on the channel after FPL Fran, but it's I've been on your channel and it was a great time, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun today, and I'm sure you will be very uncontroversial and very calm with your opinions when we talk about this highly provocative topic of conversation for a lot of people in the community. So before we get into it, I would just like to ask the first question, which is, what is your thought process behind your FPL strategy, and how do you make the decisions that took you all the way to the top 5K?
Well, this is an interesting thing. And look, I believe in the game of chance. And I think that, and obviously we're here to talk about and rebuff the models. And last year, I used the card. The card is the D-Unit model. You literally go 50-50 and you hope that it goes your way. This year hasn't gone my way, but last year, all the 50-50 calls, the card, I followed the card and it just, and I like having fun. And at the end of the day, football in life, any two teams can show up and you don't know what the result will be on any given day. You could have a team that's like Wolves, not won all season, and they could go to an Arsenal and fluke a 1-0 win, and no model will be able to predict that. And I think that's why I play FPL the way I do. I believe in the fact that, you know, I think I can work out which players are going to do well, and I'll pick them based on the fact that I think they're going to do well over the period of time I'm actually buying them for.
So what you're saying is some people might think you're a bit of an FPL joker, but really you're more like Harvey Dent, tossing the coin and letting the cards fall where they may.
Bang on.
Well, what I would say is, like, how when it comes to your card strategy, are you devoted to the card? If the card was to say something completely different to what you believed, would you overrule the card? And how do you present the choices to the card? Because you're not going to walk up and say, right, should we sign Phil Foden or John Arias from Wolves this week? The card must be presented with some chances in some choices in some way. So how do you go about using them?
Well, so honestly, I only actually use it on when I think it's a 50-50. If there's two players that I think are really close by. So, for example, when I bought in Bruno Guimaraes this week in game week 14, it was between him and Minte. And I was like, I looked at the fixtures and I was like, well, we're going to get 5 free transfers. If the Bruno Guimaraes thing doesn't work, then whatever. And I was like going, you know what? I think it's really 50-50. Let's ask the card. And the card said Bruno Guimaraes, and that's how I went, got the points and happy days. But then on other times, I've defaulted to it too much. And this year, every time I've asked it about captaincy on 2 players in my own team, it's got it wrong. I haven't got it right once yet. Like, what are the odds of that? Well, like, it just consistently keeps coming up the wrong answer.
I know that I have sometimes tuned into your late mail and the live deadline streams, and I've asked the card every now and then for advice, and it always seems to like winding me up, doesn't it? Like, you remember last year when I asked it if it should go triple Nottingham Forest defence on my free hit, the card said yes, and then they conceded after 90 seconds, and like it just carried on, and it's almost like the card might be a bit mad at me for not asking anymore, so he's taking it out on you, and maybe we are two jokers who are spinning a narrative to suit our own ends, but it's fun. But what I would say is, to a lot of people, it might sound a bit daft. Oh, I toss a card and just do what it says. But really, is it that much different from using a projection model, in the sense that someone like Fran, if he was torn between 2 players, he would say, oh, I've got Minte and I've got Bruno Guimaraes. I'm not sure who is going to outscore the other. So I will look at the projection models, and that says Minte is more likely in the longer term, but maybe Guimaraes over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Do I want this player longer term or short term? But ultimately, these are just projection models. They can't tell you exactly what's going to happen. And it does come down to a bit of chance. And I suppose what you're saying is, sod the models, we'll go straight for the chance and let the cards fall where they may, quite literally.
Yeah, legit. And I think that's, last year, I was like, me and you had 2 very different strategies to the mainstream media that was going around with in regards to other people that make content. And you went the free hit 35 strategy and I went the free hit 38. We both ended up doing some weird stuff in 34 and we just got burnt. Like it was, our read was different, but like at the same time, and I go back, our ranks were pretty good last year. Like you finished in the, what was it, top 20 in the end?
I was top 10k, and then I started sacrificing rank to win my mini league just for the sake of the YouTube story I was telling. So I finished 77k, but that was because in the last 5 or 6 game weeks I started taking hits to get my main rival's team in, so he couldn't beat me. That was my model.
Yeah, and like my case last year, I was like I got into like the top 1,000. At one point, I was 837, and I was then 913 in game weeks 30 and 31. And I made the conscious decision then. I was like I want to go and try and win it. And if I'm going to try and win it, I'm not playing defensive. I've got to do something that's a bit different, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to beat these other people that are around me. I took a Hail Mary. It didn't work, still finished top 5K, but like at least I didn't die wondering what could have been. I played it and just went for it, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, well, I think this is, we'll get into risk management and stuff later on, because I do have a question about that. But, it is a very fair thing. How many times are you going to be in the top 1K with 6 game weeks to go and have a chance of winning? Is it worth playing it safe? Oh, I'll secure a 3-figure finish, or is it worth going for that world number 1? You obviously went for it, and it didn't pay out, but you've still ended up with a better finish than the vast majority of players who will ever play the game will have. And some people might prefer to, some people might play it a bit safer and say, oh, I'm on for my best ever finish. Let's just secure that and, hope to get lucky. Whereas you try and force the luck and you try and force the game to play to bend to your will, for lack of a better term, although I think that's quite a good term. So
that is a good term.
Yeah, so and I think that is a very valid strategy because there is a lot of luck involved in the game. But I have to ask the question that is on everybody's lips. Your team, as it stands, is very similar to a projection model team at the minute. Now, maybe that is because the players are obvious, at this moment in time. But the question is, have you ever used a projection model? And if you haven't, why do you reject them?
No, I've never used one. And the weirdest thing was, obviously everyone knows that I'm a bit of a joker. I love having a laugh and I like taking the piss out of people, including myself. I mean, I wore a wig today on my team selection video to show that I'm having fun. I'm not here to sit there. And if I make a throwaway comment, it should never be taken derogatorily. It's just me just having a bit of a laugh. And I sit there and I look at my team and I didn't even know what FPL review was until Bateman was talking about it on X. And I actually asked him a message. I sent him a message. I was like, what the hell is review? And he goes, it's the thing that comes out about 3 weeks or 2 weeks before the start of each season. And then all of a sudden, all the first drafts, the initial drafts all get changed mysteriously once it releases. And I was like, what? I was like, well, come again? And then he explained to me what it was. And I was like going, and then that's when I asked Gary about, is that what you use, FPL review? And he was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, it's so annoying. Like lots of other people will say that, they didn't get to the same team because they just picked up. I was like, oh, piss off. It's clear. And like even Fran said it in his thing, it's clear who uses models because their teams are all literally the same. And like, I get what you're saying with my team, but I feel like where everyone's going, I was already there. Like Phil Foden, Bruno Guimaraes, I bought them in before they started doing it. Well, of the week they started doing anything, I just thought that they looked like good players. And I've been talking about Foden all season. It's just now he's actually banging.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a very fair point. And I feel like whether you use a model or not, I feel the pool of players is often quite narrow in the game anyway, if you are engaged. If you are engaged in the game, you know who's going to do well in it. And you know who has the potential to do well in it. Like if you were playing on FIFA or something, you'd not even think of someone like Chris Richards. But when it comes to this game, you know that Chris Richards has got these different routes to points that other defenders don't. Someone like a De Kuyper, who we both started the season with, it was just a disaster. But part of the reason it was a disaster is because of the different routes to points someone like Chris Richards has. So the pool of players for the engaged manager is naturally quite narrow. So you will often end up with a very similar team to these projection models, even if you don't use them yourself. And some would say that is an argument not to even bother using them. Because if you believe, like you do, that luck is a massive factor in the game, then what's the point in using these models when you know the players anyway?
Yeah. And I think a really good case of that last season was, and this is why I think I did so well last year, is like I picked up a Phil Foden, right? No one picked him up last year. I think I was the only content creator that actually was banging on about him and bought him for that 5 weeks. And I literally did not get one blank that entire 5 weeks. And I sold him after the 5 weeks because I was like, I don't think Man City are playing that well. And I think that the returns are about to dry up. And they did. And it was like the best 5 week spell I've ever owned a player. But I feel like the models, and when I obviously listened to the Fran episode, and obviously the start of the season, they were awful. Like there's a reason why all the content creators suck this year. It's because they all use the models. In the case of me and Nightmare, I feel like we've had a really good read. Both of us didn't start with Salah because we knew that he was crap. We obviously weren't using models because all the models were saying he was the best player to have. And we're ahead of the curve there. It's just, the players that we went for, we just had a misreading of the DCs, I reckon. That's been our biggest issue to early doors. And then we've just picked some players that just haven't performed. Like I picked double Nottingham Forest defence. I think you did as well.
Yeah, did I.
Did you have Ollie Watkins as well?
Yep, had them all. Jared Bowen.
Yeah, and that's our problem. Like on theory, based off like our knowledge of the game, the fact that these guys are good and they had easy looking fixtures on paper, that's generally what I use. What do the fixtures look like? Are they a player that's in form? At the start of the season, you're literally gambling on the fact that you've read the preseason form. Ollie Watkins had been scoring goals. Nottingham Forest had kept a clean sheet literally every single game. It looked a no-brainer, and it just went pear-shaped, and I feel like we've been chasing tail ever since.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, it was like, well, I started with Saka and Palmer over Haaland and Salah, and then I brought in Anthony Gordon for the Liverpool match. I lost Palmer, Saka and Gordon in the same week, used my wild card to fix it, and then Cunha and Sarr both got injured the week after, and it's like, well, you know, that's quite a lot to overcome early doors.
The same place.
Yeah, but all of them players are, you know, from the pool of FPL players who are good assets. And I suppose it is a good argument what you're saying about luck being such a massive part of it. Now,
like, how did we know that they were going to get injured? Like, how did we know that in game week 2, Palmer was going to go down with a groin, Saka was going to get himself injured, and then the players we literally bring in the week after get injured? I mean, you can't make that up. That's just rotten luck. There's no model that can predict injuries. It's just the luck of the draw, and we just haven't had the luck of the draw.
Now, you may not use the projection models like Solio, but statistics do play a big part in your videos. You always feature the expected goals and assists on your slide when discussing your recommendations, the expected goals conceded as well for the defenders, and you use them to add weight to your suggestions. Like, quite famously for me, I've talked about it a few times, you were pushing for Jurriën Timber over Gabriel early doors because of the expected goals, for example. What is it which makes these particular statistics worthy of attention, and why are they valid?
You know what? Last year, I thought that they were very valid. Like last year, I feel like the XG and the XA stats generally married up with players that were returning. This year, I don't think they do. Like, just historically, based off what I've seen, like, obviously, I'll talk about Bruno Fernandes as a brilliant case in point. Me and you have captained him 2 of the last 3 game weeks. In the 2 games that he's blanked in terms of attacking returns, he's gone over 0.6 XGI, expected goals, expected assists in both of those games. Now, you can say that's unlucky. You could say that's poor finishing, poor conversion, whatever you want to call it. It's just not been good enough. And I think that this year, I think that's why I've also been kind of let down, because I've looked at the stats, I've looked at the fixture, and it just has not married up. I mean, like, the best fixture this week on paper was West Ham at home. They were listless on Sunday. Bruno Fernandes, you thought, there's no Paqueta. He can literally just bomb forward. Well, he did bomb forward, but he kept hitting the post. He kept putting it wide. He kept putting it over the bar. He couldn't finish a biscuit and gets DC. We're relying on DC points. Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, this is it. I don't mind the DC points. I do think there maybe needs to be a bit of weighting about them and a bit of tweaking, but I don't mind them too much. But they're not really the point of this conversation. That's for another day.
No, they're not. You get sidetracked very easily.
But no, so that is true what you say about, like, sometimes the expected stats just do not marry up to the outcomes, but it could be said over the course of a longer period, 10 game weeks, for example, rather than 1, they would be quite accurate, and quite often they are. The players we sign are the ones that tend to exceed it over a period of time. But then you've got programs like Solio, and I say Solio a lot because that's the one I've most tempted by. As you know,
he's a good salesman.
Yeah,
he's a good salesman.
Nick Triggerlips is a very good salesman for it. He's lured me in quite well, and you know, and Praz is using it. Why don't you like Praz? Why don't you go and it's working? I'm not going to lie, it is interesting. But why are programs like Solio, which basically take the data of the expected goals and assists and then apply it to future game weeks to estimate a point score, why do you disregard those outcomes that they suggest?
Because I feel like any old man and his dog could work out that, on average, Bruno Fernandes is probably going to average about 5 points per game. Why? Because he's very good for underlying defensive contribution, and he's going to occasionally blank, and then he's occasionally going to get an assist or a goal. So obviously the average is going to work out that at some point he'll be averaging between 5 and 6 points probably for the season. I don't think you need to look at a model to work that one out. I think over a long period of time, I feel like if you watch enough of the football, like obviously I watch literally almost every game in the live watch longs and that, I think that it's actually quite visible. Like when I was watching the games all 6 on Thursday morning for me, Wednesday night UK time, I was looking at the games and I was like going, like they're all very similar. Like a lot of the games, like just sitting there a little bit cagey and then like the balls and that, whatever. Models are like based on like betting markets historically and historic returns and stuff. I know how that they work and stuff like that. I've got a good understanding of the statistics and stuff behind them, but they're incapable of determining when someone's going to go and get a hat trick. Like there's no way they can predict that. I mean, that comes down to a couple of different factors. One, the form the player is in. And by the time Solio, and Trig's been saying this himself, Solio's slow to input the data like Phil Foden in terms of it still thinks Matheus Cunha is going to outscore Phil Foden. Like what world at the moment does that ring true?
Be interesting to see because this video will come out after that, after game week 15, and it'll be interesting to see if it was correct on the Foden versus Cunha shout. I actually quite rate Cunha for that Wolves match because I am a big believer in narrative, which is something that these programs are never able to capture, but often like. Quite recently, you had Eberici Eze get the hat-trick against Spurs, who, of course, refused to pay the money to sign him in the summer. And then Thomas Frank laughed at the idea of him coming to Spurs. And then he's gone and punished him. And then he did his little celebration and, got the hat-trick. And I mean, that's a sort of nuance that a model can't really pick up on. And I do believe in the power of the narrative. But maybe that's part of my downfall. Maybe that's why I am 3.5 million in the rank. Like, I mean, do you think? I don't think so.
I don't think your rank's down on that. I honestly, I actually sit there and like, obviously we've talked about hits, and obviously we've both taken hits. I've actually taken the last 3 weeks. I've taken hits and got green arrows. I literally matched the free hit draft by just taking a hit. And I mean, if I'd actually picked a decent captain, I would have smashed it, but I didn't. That's been my biggest downfall is just captaincy. Whereas I feel like a lot of the players were picking, like, I even look at your team and I'm like, your team, there's nothing wrong with it. You're picking players that should, in theory, return based even on my understanding of the game and what I've been watching. But no one can account for Dan Burn getting rinsed by Brentford and getting himself set off. No. I mean, like, that was not in the... Like, no, I could not see that. And like, I thought that Newcastle's defence the first 6 weeks, and I know Livramento got injured, but you wouldn't expect one player to make that much of a drop-off. You look at Arsenal, they've got no Gabriel, no Saliba. They're still keeping clean sheets for fun.
I mean, they even rested Timber and kept a clean sheet the other night, although he did come on. But, I mean, well, this is it. But then at the same time, I was talking to Black Box Az the other day, and he sent me a screenshot of when I was on the Black Box, and, like, my defence, I had Sells, Milenkovic, Matheus Nunes, and that De Kuiper from Brighton, and I'm thinking, well... maybe I have kind of put myself in this position a bit because, like, I look at that now and I think, what the bloody hell was I thinking? Like, why not just go safe, get your Gabriel in, get your Munoz, just play it safe, get Big Dan burning and just, play it a bit safer early doors. Well, then I look at that and, like, I do, when I think of it, like, I did my walking video and I'm thinking, I've been so unlucky this season. And then... he sends me that picture, Sells, Milenkovic, De Kuiper, Matheus Nunes. And it's like, maybe I do kind of deserve to be where I am.
I disagree. I sit down, I look at that at the start of the year, right? And I feel like I had De Kuiper as well. I had De Kuiper, I had Milenkovic, I had Sells. And Nottingham Forest on paper had the best opening 5 fixtures for like what I expected to be clean sheets. They just sucked. I don't know what happened. Nuno had a falling out with the manager and it had that much of an impact. The team just went to absolute pot. You can't account for that. Like based off preseason form, they were nailed for clean sheets. They just didn't get them. And then the Kuiper one, he's come good. He's just scored a goal, and Mateus Nunes did exactly what we predicted. It just took 5 weeks for it to happen.
He got his. I think he nailed down his first team place the week I sold him. So, and he never lost it since. You know, it's just. But this is it. You know, we do all the analysis, and we did do some quite in-depth analysis in pre-season. You can go back and watch our videos, and you know, we didn't use models, but we did our own research on who were the best players, who were the ones to avoid, and I feel like a lot of that has been proven. And we've just got a bit unlucky, really. I do feel like now you're making me feel like I've been a bit unlucky again, and I'm not sure.
We got on at the wrong time. We got on at the wrong time. That's the problem. Like even me, the Foden time, the first time round, right? Like I brought him in because I was confident he'd just come back from injury. He'd looked good. He'd scored. I was like, I was confident pre-season he was going to be in my team straight out the bat. As soon as he scored, he was playing 90 minutes. I was like, bring him in. The 90 minutes was not an issue. Pep Roulette was not an issue. Except he did a Bruno for about 6 weeks and just dodged points. I took him out for a couple of weeks, and then I was like, no, I reckon he's about to bang. He got that brace in the Champions League. I was like, he's got to put that in the Premier League. So I brought him back in, and because I'd failed those 3 weeks when I bought him in the first time of captaincy, I haven't captained him, and it's cost me 45 points.
Well, I tell you what, this is the funny thing, though, because he played Newcastle and he was electric, you know. Like when that was the first time I'd seen him this season. I don't watch a lot of Man City because I find them quite a boring team. I watch the highlights, but this is the other thing is, you know, I live in the UK, and if I want to watch all the football, it costs about £150 a month. It's a very high pay-to-play model, and so I can only watch what I can watch. And the YouTube highlights are free and accessible to all. Which is where someone like you has the advantage because you pay about 50 pence on a Mars bar to watch every football match in existence. You know, it's like, what? But that, again, that's a different debate for a different day. The sooner they bring out football Netflix, the better. And, you know,
that'll be good.
Well, they should do it because if they had like the football for 50 quid a month and you could watch every game, everyone around the world would buy it, and they'd kill Sky Sports immediately, and they'd get the money direct. And I don't know why they don't do it. You know, you could get all the different leagues on as well, and you could get the leagues to pay them to be on it.
That would be good.
Different conversation, and now I've lost my train of thought from the original one. But yeah, so anyway, that was it. I watched Foden, and he was electric. He was chance after chance after chance, and he was wasting them. His shooting was poor that day, and in the back of my head, I'm thinking, is he been poor that day? Like, what is the reflection of Foden? Is it the player that's getting all these chances, or is it the one that's skying them, you know, 10 yards over the bar? Like Enzo Fernandez, he gets a lot of chances and he misses a lot of chances. You know, is Foden and Enzo Fernandez, or is he, you know, the Phil Foden of 2 years ago? And you obviously went for that on the free hit. And I mean, I was scared when everyone was free hitting. I said on my video, you know, Foden's the one I fear. And, you know, 32 points later, I've brought him in now, perhaps. But now he might miss out, and, you know, but is that analytics?
I think he does. He doesn't miss out. I mean, like, this is the thing. I think like this is what the models fail to understand. They don't understand that Man City are 6 or 7 points behind Arsenal? Yeah, so they can't be affording to drop points. And they would have seen what Sunderland did at Anfield the other night. And you can say that's Liverpool no good this season, whatever you want to call it. But Sunderland have not been easy beats. They went to Chelsea and beat them. No. So, like, they are not a team where you can just sit there and throw out your 11 reserves and expect to get a result. Even Pep in his press conference today talked about Nico O'Reilly. He said he's not a granddad or whatever. He probably doesn't need a rest, and away you go. So I think that Pep's in that vein where he knows that if he drops more points, the race is completely over. So you are not going to throw out your second string who lost the last time he did it. You're going to put out your best players, which means I think that And that's why I know Trig put it in the chat today about like the minutes for Foden and Cunha are about the same. I think Foden smashes Cunha for minutes because he's Man City's best player behind Haaland.
No, I agree. It's like this is a bit of a detour from the main point, but I agree in the sense that they never rested De Bruyne back when he was in his prime. They never rested him, and now I feel Foden is the De Bruyne of Man City. He's, whether he's on the right or central, he is the creative fulcrum of that team. Everything's going through him, and you could even say the reason Haaland is doing so well is because Foden is back in the team, back at his best. And the models can fail to pick up on this. Like anyone who's watched the football this season, this is recorded just before game week 15. Anyone who's watched it this season will know Phil Foden is miles better than Matheus Cunha. Cunha has been a busted flush. He has looked poor. His shots, you know, he might be racking up a bit of XG, but his shots are off balance. They're from stupid positions. It's a very selfish player, and it's not. While he might get the numbers, it's a bit like Semenyo last year. He might get the data numbers. They're not conducive to conversions to points because of the way he's racking them up. Like there's a difference between expected goals of 1 from taking 20 shots from 30 yards out, and expected goal of 1 because you've had a tapping on the line. But the data doesn't really discern between the two. Although, to be fair, maybe it is a bit more complex than we are giving it credit for there. I'm not sure. Do you feel using these programs is cheating? I don't have an issue, and I think this is why Gary and Trig, I think sometimes think I've got an issue with people using them or whatever. I don't. I just don't think it's a fun way to play the game. Like that's just my own opinion. Like I when I play a game, and like I know that Fran talked about it. Fran he talked about when he played StarCraft 2 or whatever it was. Yeah.
I played Age of Empires 3. I was the world's #1 1v1 player in treaty games for 30 minutes, like no rush. People literally watched my games to try and figure out what I was doing. I never watched anyone else's game. I just literally looked at the things that got put out in patches, and I thought, all right, I can exploit that. I can work that out, and I'll use that. And then me and my mate, we won a tournament. Like, unfortunately, esports back then was if esports was today what it was back then, I would never have done FPL. I would have been a millionaire and probably retired.
Oh, it's massive today. Like I got my YouTube recap, and like obviously I think 8 of the top 10, because I've got my FPL channel and my personal channel. 8 of the top 10 are FPL channels. And then I've got one of my mate who is a Football Manager streamer. And then I've got another one who is DGR Dave, who does like Super Mario watch-alongs and stuff.
Oh, nice.
I love it. Like, because it's just fun, and it's like a good 20 minutes. If I've got nothing else to watch, I don't need to worry if the kids are around because he's very family friendly. But it's a bit like FPL, and I suppose my reaction videos where people get enjoyment from watching somebody who's meant to be good at something do terrible and fail to deal with the emotions. I suppose maybe that is the problem. Maybe DGR Dave, the Super Mario Maker streamer, is too much of an influence of my FPL style this season. Let's just try something a little bit stupid, and then who knows? But do you think we take too many risks?
Yeah, I think that I always remember like when we were sitting there and I played I played Dota 2 as well. Like I love Dota 2. People see me play it once on a watch along when we were waiting at half time and I played a 20-minute game. I will literally pick heroes that I just like. Like I'll just pick them and I'll be like, oh, I'll try and make the hero work. I'll try and like just throw out stuff and try and max it and build items that will deal with whatever the other enemy team picks and whatever. But like then I look at the patch notes, and me and my mates, we've got a couple of mates of us that we play 3v3, or no, 3 of us, and then we stack and go for like, it's always 5v5. And we will try stupid ass strategies with heroes that have just like had given a buff. And like we'll sit there and try it, and people think that we're like cheating. And I'm like, oh no, we've just looked at what they've introduced. we think we can exploit it, and we'll exploit it based off like what we've read. And I feel like when I look at FPL, the only stats you actually really need are the ones that are on the website. Free to use. You don't have to go and look anywhere. They're literally there. If you click on a player and you go to, player profile and show more, or full player profile, that's all the information you need. It tells you how many DCs they're averaging. It tells you the XG, the XA, and even within, and depending on how many goals and assists they've got, it'll tell you how many, they've got. The only thing I would say that is bad about is the XGC.
Yes.
So Fulham, and we know what my thoughts about Fulham. I think they're crap. I think Anderson's rubbish and he's just a waste of space. But the thing is, if you looked at the XGC, you'd think Fulham actually is a half-decent defence. But they don't. I mean, I know they've kept 3 clean sheets this year, which is like a lot of other teams now, but they've been pretty much gifted one by Wolves, and the other 2, they've been quite lucky, I think.
It's 8 clean sheets in a season and a third.
Yeah,
which is not very good. And they were the 5th highest for the expected goals conceded, 5th best in the whole league. And they kept 8 clean sheets in something like 51 matches.
Yeah. And I don't understand. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm like going, that's the one stat where I sit there and go, it's a rubbish stat. Like, I know I put it on my stuff, so because I know a lot of people do like stats-based stuff. But when I look at XGC, I think it's crap. Like, I bought Dan Burn because the XGC for Newcastle the first 6 game weeks was like 0.58 on average for the 6 games. What happens? He keeps 1 clean sheet in 6 games and can see multiple goals.
Well, a great example is your man Senesi. I've got Senesi from Bournemouth, and at home he's conceding 0.47 expected goals a game, but they're just conceding goals for fun. The defence is gone, and it is a real problem. And I do feel like I kept him for the stats, and for the DEFCONs, because he got the DEFCONs away from home. But I wish I'd kept Dan Burn, because I watched Dan Burn, and every time Newcastle get a set piece, I think he's going to be involved. I think he's either scoring, he's getting a knockdown for somebody else.
Rugby tackled
to it. I had 2 assists in 2 games at time of recording. But even in open play, if we're needing a goal, he'll just randomly appear at the edge of the area like he's, a 6'7" Peter Beardsley, and it's like, what are you doing? But you don't pick up that new. I suppose you could maybe pick it up with like the heat maps and stuff, but even then, it doesn't. If he's doing it twice a game and the ball's going nowhere near him, it's not to say that it's not going to go near him the next time.
It's like the heat maps. You talk about the heat maps, right? So, for example, against Crystal Palace, not Crystal Palace, the Everton game, Everton Man United. Joshua Zirkzee played the full 90 minutes. And his heat map would have looked good, like in terms of where he was running, what positions he was taking up. He touched the ball the least out of everyone on that field. He might be running in the right spots, but if he's not getting the ball, I mean, it's pointless.
The old Alexander Isak approach to footballer. So anyway, I'm not sure if we actually got a definitive answer to that. Do you feel using Solio is cheating?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's just for people that don't want to win. I think it's good. I think, from what I actually never even bothered to look. I'm just basing this off what Trigger always talks about in the chat and shares in there. So I'm literally, I've not gone and checked it out myself, and I've got no interest in checking it out myself because I just don't believe in it. But I just think that he looks at it and he just wants to be defensive. He's looking at the percentage ownership of players and that. I was like, I've never been defensive for last year. I was inside the top 1,000. I went ultra aggressive. I did not go defensive. And even Trout, who obviously I know you've talked about and you mentioned in the Fran interview as well, that dude, he might use Solio, he might be whatever, but he's still aggressive. And I feel like people that do that and aggressive, by all means, crack on. If you think a model's really going to help you, then use a model. But I just prefer, I think you get more understanding of the games when you're watching them. And I know that's expensive as well. Obviously, in the UK, it's expensive to watch unless you're doing something dodgy and got a Fire Stick. But don't follow my advice there on that one. But I understand that, but like it is definitely the best way. Like, for example, you could sit there and you can see like Enzo's in these great positions for Chelsea, but he keeps on spurning him. It's a bit like Mateus Cunha, gets all these really good runs, gets into decent looking positions, does nothing with the ball. That's why he's only got 1 goal, even though his XG in that suggests that he should have a lot more. So I feel like the algorithms just look at the data. They're not actively watching the game. So as you said, the nuances, I don't know if it's actually cheating or if it's just a hindrance tool more than anything, because if you're solely relying on that rather than watching football, like Gary, classic example, does not watch any football at all. He's very open about not watching any football at all. And he just literally looks at review and listens to us and makes his decisions based off that. Like, he bought Szoboszlai instead of Cody Gakpo. I mean, anyone with a brain that had watched Liverpool would just, in theory, I feel like anyone that did actually pick Cody Gakpo got very lucky, because West Ham were very ordinary on that day. I actually thought that Liverpool would lose that game based off what I'd seen. Liverpool been rubbish. They weren't very good against Sunderland. They should have lost against Sunderland as well. And I just think models don't pick that up. If you're just playing solely based off data and models, you're not going to pick up the fact that a team's crap. Unless they're losing every game.
Yeah. I suppose in a way, it can almost inundate you with data to the point where you actually get a bit bogged down, a bit overwhelmed by the sheer reams of data. And it can, maybe with Gary from the FPL podcast, maybe what it is with him is he started using it and then, he got so overwhelmed. Like, he always talks about kind of minimizing his exposure to FPL content and discussion and stuff. And maybe it's just easier for him to. So maybe, I suppose, maybe he's treating himself in a way. But then if it makes him happy, that's fair enough as well, though.
That's it. That's all I said. I was like, I've got no issue with like people that play it. It's like, I think that what people like about particularly my and your channels is the fact that we don't play it like that. Like, people know that we aren't using these programs. Like, you might start using them and they might turn against you, but that might be reason enough to check them out.
I trust the wonderful viewers, because of course this channel, Darius, as you know, is highly targeted to only the best, the most beautiful, the most intelligent of all FPL managers. And if anybody is watching this, they are in that category. So I trust that they will appreciate that. I'm trying to actually have the conversations rather than just have an emotional reaction to the use of these programs. And I am trying to explore. And sometimes I feel like in FPL content, there is a lack of nuance. It's all like strong opinions. And when we're on the podcast, I do advocate for strong opinions. But I am genuinely torn on this issue. I don't know, because I'm struggling, Like you say, our risky style was wonderful for us last season, but this year, I mean, we're in the mud. We are like, I'm 3.5 million, and I keep taking 4.1. And I keep making the moves, and they all look good. I always think this move looks good, and then Nico O'Reilly. I bring in Nico O'Reilly, and then Man City go and concede something like, was it 6 goals in? Yep. Two games,
I beat the same boat.
5 clean sheets in 9 before that. And the worst thing was I got O'Reilly in instead of Phil Foden, who's got 32 points. And, it is hard. It is frustrating. And I am wondering if these programs can help me kind of cut through the emotion, because I am an emotional guy. And for me, this game is as much about controlling, managing and harnessing my emotions as it is dealing with my team. Like, I mean, my reaction videos are often highly emotional and almost trying to work through the emotions so I can get on with my life. But when you play the risky style like you do, and, you obviously enjoy it, but how do you manage the emotions when a risk backfires and it does leave your rank decimated? Because you seem to handle it an awful lot better than I do,
I think for me, the one thing I won't be doing again is I won't be captaining a United player, because The one thing I'll say, like people know, I even when during live watch-alongs when like Haaland's just destroyed my captain, I'm actually take it really well, like because it's not my own team. Like, but unfortunately, when I captain my own team, like Bruno Fernandes, two of the last 3 weeks, and the result is poor, that is when it gets me. I was like, I could handle Man United winning and Bruno doing nothing, and I could even handle Bruno getting minus points if Man United won. The thing I struggle with is when he both does nothing and Man United stink up the gaff in a home fixture that should, on paper, I've got them winning comfortably and they don't show up. That's the annoying bit. And like, other than that, I can handle it, which is why I've gone so rogue with captaincy, because I'm like, my rank's here. The quickest way I can make it up is just hope that some of these, and like, it's not like I've been picking dud players. Like, I've been picking players. No captain I picked this year has not gone mega on like mega hauls. So like Bruno's gone over 10 points, I think three times. I've captained obviously Foden, who's obviously got nuclear the weeks that I haven't captained him. I've captained Gabriel, obviously got the 12-pointer, and that still wasn't enough. Like, I don't feel like, it's not like I've been just picking Hail Marys and thinking, I pick players based on the fixture, the form they're in, and they just don't show up the week I captain them. Even Haaland, triple captain, doesn't show up. So, like, the argument, people say, no one said it since. They're like, I think that everyone was going, oh, you take on Haaland, you're asking for trouble. Then I went in triple captain and you got a blank. So now I feel like people have just been like, well, maybe just unlucky because take him on the week that it looks best for a triple captain and he does nothing. Didn't even look like scoring a goal.
Do you not think that the algorithms can help you turn this around? Not at all.
I look at my team at the moment, right? So my team value is almost up to 104 million. Like, I'm literally buying the players before people are buying them. Like, I bought Phil Foden 2 weeks ago when people are free hitting because I was like, he's a good buy. Why are you free hitting? Just buy him. And I did. So I've still got the free hit. And we talked about free hitting in 19. But I feel like, because I watch so much football, I can see, when I see a run of fixtures come up, I'm like, going, the 3 fixtures to target. West Ham are home, Wolves are home, Burnley are home. If you've got a team coming up with them, go for it. That's why I bought Van den Berg, because I think over those weeks, the next 2, maybe not this week, he might actually do all right against Spurs because Spurs aren't very good either. But I think that's why I make these moves. Like, no one's going to be bringing in Van den Berg, but I did. No one really was buying Bruno Guimaraes last week, but I thought he's playing Spurs. Spurs are crap. He's at home. He should do something. I mean, for 45 minutes, I thought, oh my God, this is not going our way I predicted. But then he came on and did exactly what I thought. Yeah. But like, I just think that the models wouldn't pick that up straight away. Like, if you sat there and relied on him, by the time the players have, like Phil Foden, they're probably recommending bringing in now. He's already got 32 points. That's 32 points you would have missed out on. Like, I think you've got to be ahead of the curve, ahead of the algorithms in order to win FPL. The guy that's literally first in my mini league, case in point, number 9 in the world at the moment, and he has captained someone other than Haaland in 6 of the 14 game weeks, and in 5 of those 6 he's beaten Haaland. So like, the models and the people that sit there and are conservative, protecting rank, whatever, they're not going to win FPL because you're not going to get to that number 1 position. You need to be able to be comfortable with risk. And you talk about it before. Like, for me, I'm quite a happy person. I take the piss out of myself. I wear a big wig because bloody Bruno sucked and whatever. Like, not many people can do that, but like, my personality is just that way inclined. And I feel like I'm probably better suited to that, which is why I'm taking risks. I mean, like, and it's always the way I've played. I mean, in fact, I've only played the game, I think, 5 years now, something like that. And I think I've literally just finished outside the top 100K in most of them. And then the first season, I think I finished 1 million or whatever it was. And then obviously had that 5K last year. I've done no different except I watch more football now. That's the only difference. And I feel like this year I've just been let down by the fixtures and teams I've targeted. Like Mateta, for example, I bought him because Crystal Palace's run's amazing, but he looks buggered. And now I'm like going, if anything, I just want Palace defense because they look like they can defend still. They just don't attack very well.
What I will just say You say you watch more football than ever now, and you're 4.1 million. And you also say Gary Beer from the Pubcast never watches football, and he's 130,000 in the ranks. So actually, maybe you're selling me a bit on these programs. maybe. But this is actually...
So he's Captain Haaland. He's Captain Haaland every week, whereas I've gone rogue. You can, I worked it out the other day. So my captains this year, if I just sat there and permit Captain Haaland since we bought him in, we both bought him in game week 3, was it?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, game week 3. If I just Captain Haaland every single week since game week 3 and triple captain him when Gary and Trig did, I would actually be probably on level points with Gary. Like that's how big of a difference is. I'm about 100 points behind. You can almost equate that. Phil Foden, when he got 1 point, Haaland got 16. Phil Foden the next week got 3 points. Haaland got 9. I captained the Gabriel and he got whatever it was. And then obviously the last couple of weeks, I mean, Bruno gets 4, Haaland gets 13 or 14 or whatever it was. Like, that's why I'm behind. It's not because of the fact I've picked worse players. If anything, I probably picked better players because most of these weeks, the last 3 weeks, I picked dud captains and I've still got green arrows and weeks that have been high scoring. So like my players are doing well. It's just I can't buy a biscuit.
I suppose it's also important. There's two important points I'm going to make. One is that for all your pal doing the risky strategy is doing really well. 9th in the world is a phenomenal performance. The world number 1 has captained Haaland every single game week and taken his gambles elsewhere. So that is obviously a good strategy. And I'll get back to that in just 1 second, because I will also make the other point that starting with Haaland and auto-captaining him every week was completely contradictory to what the models were saying. Even up to like game week 9, game week 10, the models were saying sell Haaland and get Salah. So when you talk about
Why would you use them then? Why would you use them then?
Well, this is the question. The models also predicted that Bruno Fernandes would get just over 15 points over the last 2 game weeks, and he's got 16 points. So, or 15 points or something. So,
just the wrong way around.
Well, yeah. But I think what the models, the point Fran would make about the models, or what he did make, is that it's not so much about individual game weeks. And if you are, he made the point like pro gamblers would never bet on individuals, they'd always bet on team outcomes. And that is where a lot of the volatility of FPL comes from, because we are gambling on individuals and trying to predict, very like Haaland. Who could have predicted Haaland would not get 1 shot against Leeds? You know what I mean? There's nothing in any sort of statistical analysis or even like context of the eye test that would have suggested that was even a possibility. But what the model would say is over a course of 10, 15 game weeks, Haaland is likely to get this amount of points, and more often than not, it will be quite accurate. Whether it'll be completely accurate, we don't know, because, they obviously thought Salah would be a lot better than he has been. But if you are planning a longer term team, do you not think that maybe we would be better off if we did look at these programs? I don't know. I genuinely don't know, because
I don't think so. I feel like even last year, I don't know if you had the double up on Brentford attack where it was Boomer and Wissa. Did you have the double up at all?
Yeah, I was very early on Wissa, but the problem was everybody else had Cunha.
Yeah, but the longer the season went on, Cunha obviously got injured and then he got suspended or whatever. And Wissa and Mbumo, I looked at those fixtures last year and I was like going, I think this is what the mistake I've made this year. And I went for Sarr and Mateta 5 game weeks ago. When I took that hit and bought in them, and I could have got away with instead bringing in Minte and Welbeck, and the difference in output from Minte and Welbeck combined versus Mateta and Sarr over that 5-week period was a difference of about 30 to 40 points. Based on the fixtures, you couldn't allow for that kind of difference because Palace's fixtures were good. It's just they were knackered from Europe. And I didn't think they would be that impacted with how easy the fixtures were and just not return. Whereas Welbeck and Minte, the fixtures I don't think were as good, but they just went ballistic. And I think that reminds me of last year. Going the double up quite often works, and I don't think the models would be recommending buying two players, generally speaking, from the same attack. They might say it with defence because, like, there are obviously three really elite defences, which are obviously Crystal Palace, Arsenal, and to what had been up until this game week, Chelsea. They've been pretty good for like the last 3 or 4 weeks, but then they had a mare against Leeds. But I feel like the double United attack was banging, and then it stopped banging like 3 weeks ago when Mbeumo's done nothing for the last 3 weeks, and Bruno's only returned in one of the three. But prior to that, they both returned for like a number of weeks, and my rank had been going the right way. I think that it's about jumping on and jumping off at the right time, and I think that, and again, that comes down to your judgment more than models, because if you rely on the models are saying to keep Cole Palmer throughout his entire dry spell all last year. That's why all the content creators kept him, because they just thought he was going to be good. The fixtures are good. They didn't account for the fact that the way that Chelsea had started to play a bit differently wasn't suitable to the way Cole Palmer plays. And that's why the returns dried up. But yeah, I mean, that was my bad. I didn't watch a lot of the football during that time of the year because I was traveling. So I was in the UK. So I missed a lot of those games where Cole Palmer was sucking. As soon as I got home, I was like, he's no good. Get him out. No. But like, I think that's where it does come back to, if you're not watching the football and you're like, oh, well, Cole Palmer's racking up 0.5 XG every game. The models are loving him. I'm keeping him. He's going to return. But if you watch the actual game, you're like, well, he's actually having these crap shots and it doesn't look like he's going to do anything. I think that's what it comes back down to at the end of the day.
So would you put words in your mouth a bit here, but what I will say, like, if you were thinking of like a different model to this highly statistical analysis these programs do, would you say something like the last 6 games crossed with form, last 6 games crossed with like the form of the last 6 games and the upcoming fixtures, and kind of work it off that? So if I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but like, if you look at the black box, for example, they always have a graphic up the last 6 games. And I always find that interesting because nobody else really tends to do that. They'll have the expected goals, or they'll have like the goals and assists. But that last 6 games one I always find interesting because that shows who is in form. And then obviously if you look at the FDR, or you do your own FDR on your channel, which is often more up to date than the official one, maybe that is a better model. Maybe like something like Solio will have the data probably going back 18 months, and that's what it's drawn its analysis from. Whereas maybe you are right in the sense that last six matches crossed with the fixtures is the way to go. And maybe we haven't been doing enough of that this season, and that's why we're struggling. Maybe we are last 1 or 2 fixtures plus the next 1 fixture, and maybe we need to be like slightly more longer term in our outlook, but maybe not quite as long term as these statistical models.
Well, so that's why I spend a lot of time updating the FDR every single week, and I obviously watch all the majority of the games. On average, I watch about 8 of the 10 games in full every weekend. Like a lot of them are on the same time, so I've got them all open. But when I'm looking at them, I literally will update the FDR on Sunday night once I've watched those games. And if I've seen enough from a team over the last couple of weeks, I've turned Spurs as a green fixture. I just think that they're crap. Like, I've watched them. I turned Fulham green fixture before the FDR did, like literally weeks before, because I was like, these guys are no good. I still think the Burnley, Wolves and West Ham are dark green fixtures. I've seen nothing from any of them to think that they're actually any good. And then like Liverpool, for example, is still seen as a red fixture. Like, they have not been a red fixture for the last 10 weeks. If anything, they've been bordering on a green fixture for the majority of teams. Like, they've been bang average. And I think that when I do that, I look at them, right? So like, I do actually legitimately believe that Liverpool actually has the next 6 best weeks in terms of fixtures. And I've got them at the top of the fixture ticker. However, I feel like Man United, who I've got in third, they're going to butcher the fixtures because they're not in form. So, like, you've got to also weigh that in. I was like going, well, if they're no good and then the form is no good, it can be bloody Wolves back to back to back to back. You're not going to get a win if you're not in form.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what it comes down to. Like, that's why I look at the next 6 weeks. I'm like, all right, that's why I ended up with Bruno G. I was like, going, all right, he's got Spurs and he's got Burnley. He's got Burnley again in another 3 game weeks. And the other fixtures, he's got Man United away and they smashed them last year. So that shouldn't hold any fears. And then I think they've got Bournemouth, I think, and then Chelsea or something like that. And I think that, like, I looked at that and I was like, going, all right, I want a defender, which is why I bought Jow for like the 2 weeks. And then I'll probably free hit 19. So I'll probably sell him in game week 16 after this week. But I looked at the attackers. I was like, going, this is a good attacking run. Bruno Guimaraes literally plays every game. And then as soon as I bought him in, well, obviously he has bench, but he still did the business. But that's what I aimed off. I was like, I look at that 6 weeks. I think about the form that team is actually in. Do I want to own their players? And I'll be guilty, and you'll probably admit that you've been a little bit guilty as well, that I've been a little bit biased in my own club this year. Like, I thought after the last international break, Man United were in form. Like, it looked like we were 3 wins in a row. But I look back now at those wins, and other than the Sunderland one, they weren't very good wins. We beat Liverpool, who's literally losing to everyone. And we beat Brighton in like a 6-goal thriller where we almost threw the game away. And then we literally threw the game away against Forest and Spurs. And then we just didn't show up the pretty much the last 3. So you've got to factor that in when you're buying a player, which is why I'll be very happy to get rid of Mbeumo after Wolves, because in my head I'm like going, I can't get rid of him before Wolves. But do I really think Man United are going to win on Monday night? I've predicted Wolves to win 1-0. That's how not enthusiastic I am in the belief that we'll actually capitalise on the fixture.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's it. I mean, and like you say, you look at Man United and they are in poor form, but then it only takes 1 game to turn it around. And then, you know, do these projection models kind of factor that in a bit as well? I mean, I don't know. I don't know is the answer. It's something I'd probably have to follow a bit more, because you never really hear afterwards. You never look back and say, what was the FPL review? How did the FPL review game week 1 team do? How did their transfers do? And I suppose you could maybe gather that from following someone like Ben Crellin or you know, Big Man Bakar, even Let's Talk Andy. They are all clearly very influenced by this programme. And to be honest, I kind of understand it, because if you're making a living, if this is your job, making FPL stuff, I feel like you kind of have to almost be aware of them, because otherwise, if you miss something obvious, people are just going to stop paying any attention to you, even if you say, I disagree, but, you know, I can see why people, I don't know. But
so I listened to Fran talk about that, and like, you know, they use it, whatever. And I think that's the problem. I feel like they obviously, and you talked about it in your thing like that, we're technically talking about review picks or whatever it is, because, you know, they're talking about it and I'm like going, well, I don't like that pick. So whatever, whatever. But like, it all comes down, like, I just sit there and go, none of them are ever going to win FPL. Like, straight out of the bat, they will not have the kahunas to go rogue with captaincy multiple times against the popular pick, because, and Harry's even admitted it himself, he's a boring manager. He plays to safe picks. He goes for the higher effective ownership player. He's never going to win FPL, but he always have a good rank because he's picking players. So at the end of the day, I know we've talked about this, I'd rather win FPL and finish 10 million every single other season than sit there and have 5 ranks in a row of 5K, 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 5K. I would want to win it. I want to beat Triggs bloody 35 so I can say I'm the best person on the pubcast with the best ever rank, with the most people that have ever played, and be like, well, that's my thing. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do that following any model. I'm going to have to sit there and hope that the year that it happens, and a bit like last year, I've just got to hope that luck is kissing me and like continuously kissing me, and I'm just getting the roll of the dice, because it does come down to that. And I feel like last year, I feel like that's the difference to this year. And like, I don't think I'm actively making, like, in terms of the players I'm buying now, I don't actually think I'm making errors with the players I'm buying. It's my luck with captaincy has just been abysmal this year. And it doesn't matter which way you shake it. I've been rubbish. I've been rubbish at picking captains, even though I talk about it. Like the last 2 weeks, I'm like, I really want to captain Foden, and I didn't. And if I'd done, I've been in front of you.
not the biggest achievement this season, you know. But what I will say though, it's funny you say about the taking risks and stuff, because it was, of course, Trout from Solio, when Trigger sent us the video of Trout from Solio, and his wildcard draft, and it was quite a, for an analytics manager who was heavily invested in the development of the program, for him to like come out and say, if I was 200th in the world, I would be sacking off Haaland right now to try and go for it, and I'd be using these analytics basically to try and win the game. I found that quite interesting, because like you say, I often think of the analytics as being kind of like the let's look great without ever being great. Let's be the top 50k 8 times without ever being top 50. That's how I always saw them. But he was just saying I would use these to he triple captained Bruno Fernandes in game week 14, just gone as we record it. Well, yeah, but he used the analytics to say this is actually the best opportunity to take a risk, because that's where I'm going to make the most points up over the field, doing it this way. And to me, I find that quite interesting. I do. I feel like I need to explore the possibilities of being an analytics maverick, and I don't know if it's possible. Is the problem. But I feel
how many games a week do you watch on average?
Well, I always try and watch Newcastle. Obviously, I work over weekends, so it makes it harder. And then, honestly, the rest of it depends on who else is in the house. If my wife and kids are here, then I don't get to watch an awful lot of it. Oh, we want to watch Star Wars. It's like, why? Or we watch other YouTube channels like DJR Dave.
No, I'd agree.
But get on. My little lad would love you. Funnily enough, they know who they are well aware of who Nick Triggerlips is. Oh, how's Triggerlips doing? I keep getting asked that. I sat them down the other day. I said, I'm not going to make you watch the FPL, but I want you to get into chess. I think you could get into chess. So we started watching the last 5 minutes of Triggs videos so they could see how he does the speed chess. And it's worked. My little boys joined the chess club at school.
That's brilliant. That's what we want. Trig the godfather of the chess.
So do you think, like Trout says, he uses the analytics to identify opportunities to stick it to the template, Tommy templates of the world? Do you think that is possible, or do you think someone like Trout is deluding himself?
No, I think he's bang on. I genuinely believe that he's probably correct. I mean, what do you call it? Even I've watched Triggs videos every time he puts one out, and I love when he goes over the Content Creators League. The amount of them that are all exactly the same is criminal. But that's not here to there. But then there's Andy Martin, who's going no Haaland or whatever. He had the best game week. You can sit there and play the game so many different ways, and you don't have to be reliant on any program. And Gary seems to think that I'm anti people that use things. I was I'm just anti using them for myself. I've got no problem with other people using them. If that's how you want to play the game, it's how you want to play the game. But I put it down to this. So, for example, when I've sat there and played a video game before, right, and I want to get 100% completion, and I want to find these bloody collectibles that are hidden around the pieces of the map or whatever. If I want to really feel a sense of accomplishment, I will find them myself. If I'm being a lazy bastard and I don't find it as much fun watching a guide, which is why I'd rather suffer and put through an extra few hours in order to get the satisfaction of doing it myself. I feel like I feel like if I ever relied on something telling me or whatever that wasn't a human, like put the idea in, I'll admit that my model that I use is my WhatsApp group. People put stuff in there about players that I would never have thought about, and I don't know where they're getting them from, but I read the chat and like people go, how do I keep up? I don't know how I keep up, but I do try and read it all. But I read random ideas and then I'm like going, never took that. I think that's how I got onto Bruno G. It wasn't because of the fact that I'd actually really thought about it. Someone had put it in there. I was like, why the hell are they bringing in Bruno G? And then I went and looked on the website and I was like going, wow, he's actually got 7 attacking returns in 12 games. I was like, how have I not spotted this? And then I was like,
me and Kanji were having that argument in our FPL podcast group, aren't we? We've got this little thing going about who's going to score the most until game week 20 out of Guimaraes and Soboslai, and like it's such an obvious thing for me. It's not even close. It's not even a worry. And like I made all these stats arguments to him, and he just wasn't having it. And it's like,
he uses review. He openly admits he uses a review, and review loves him.
This is it. But like, I know what you're saying. Like, for me, if you're trying to platinum something and it's let's find 500 of the mystery cards hidden around this massive open world, like you get to 499, sometimes you're going to have a look at Google. Where is bloody card 500? You are like, you're not going to spend...
Have I got a glitch?
Yeah, you're not going to... Even just to remember which ones you've already got, you're not going to spend 50 hours to figure out it's in the back of some cave on the other side. Argument.
So you've got 499 right, and you don't know which one you're missing. You're trying to read the card. Which one do I miss? So you go around to all 500 spots, and it's always the last one that you need. The last one you haven't checked. I feel like that's what analytics is. It's a bunch of numbers, and it's a bunch of stuff. And reality, it's like and people will say, you can adjust the parameters. Trig always bangs on about adjusting the parameters. You can adjust the minutes, whatever. At the end of the day, it's about as likely as someone throwing a dart at a dartboard and landing in the bullseye that the player that it's recommending is actually going to top score that week. Like it's not going to happen more times than not.
I do also think with the kind of Google 500 cards analogy, there's a difference between looking for the 500th card after you've put all that effort in yourself and looking for it for the first card and the second card and the third card and then, playing the game on narrative mode so that you don't have to fight any bad guys and,
That's
it's like Minecraft. Like Minecraft, my boy plays Minecraft a lot. There's creative mode where the bad guys can't hurt you, and the survival mode where you've got to put the hard yards in. And some people prefer creative mode, and that's all right, but there's no peril. There's no chance of glory because you can't lose. And I suppose that is quite a good analogy.
One of the hardest achievements I ever got, one of the hardest 1K games. I don't know if you do play Xbox, PlayStation? Or PC? PlayStation. So did you play the original Call of Duty 4?
I've never played a single Call of Duty game in my life. I am
okay.
As you can probably tell from the kind of storytelling twist I put on everything. I play role playing games, Final Fantasy, but I also play Elden Ring and like the Dark Souls games, and I love them. And it's the challenge. And like you were saying before about kind of like respecing your characters and going with the different kind of, I'm going to be a mage this time. I'm going to be a warrior with a big sword and the different challenges. And I suppose that is kind of how we play this game. We all love Fantasy Premier League. We make it harder on ourselves. Some people like creative Minecraft mode. Some people like extreme Dark Souls, and
So I'll say this. So like obviously I've talked about the sheep captaining Haaland and whatever and like it's not as satisfying watching Haaland when you know that 70. This is my argument, which is why quite often I don't do it. It's not as satisfying when 70% of the game have captained the same idiot. Like everyone's getting those points. Like there's no. But if he blanks right. Like it has happened, and I just unfortunately I picked the wrong bloke that the week that he's blanked. But and it has happened like once when Bruno obviously got 4 points, Haaland got 2. That was a biblical week. I took on 70% of the game and won. That you don't get that by just doing what everyone else is doing. I think it does probably relay into like the risk factor and all that, and like protecting rank versus like trying to win the actual game. And I think like, and you talked about like other content creators and you know how they do it for a living and that. Well, my argument would be, if someone was going to use analytics, why the hell would you watch a YouTube content creator? Because you've got the information there. That there is no reason to actually sit there and listen to anyone. I think the only reason you do that is because you'd find them entertaining. That is my personal belief, which is why I think a lot of people watch mine your channels, because we are not sitting there reading stats out, giving very generic opinions. We are opinionated. We will, for what sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We'll live by the sword and die by the sword. And when it's biblical, and people will come on the journey with us. No one actually gives us crap in our comments because we are not playing the game the same way every man and his dog is that is on YouTube. We're playing it with emotion. We're playing it with cavalier picks. We're playing it with differential captains. And when it comes in, people are, oh my God, did so good. I'm so happy for you, whatever.
They don't watch mine when it goes well. They don't watch my videos when it goes well. They just want to see me suffer. You know, my highest viewed video of the season was when Anthony Gordon got that red card against Liverpool.
Well, ironically, my best video the last month or whatever was this week, right? When more Foden magic, and it blew up straight out the bat. I was going, I just think it's in terms of FPL content. I was just having this discussion with my WhatsApp group or whatever. I have to be engaged. I really struggle with non-engagement. I feel like if I used review and analytics and I was not recommending players that I believed in, rather than using an algorithm's players, reading it about, I would not have the same passion I have, because it wouldn't be my players. I buy most of the players I talk about because I believe in them. A lot of the other content creators, they talk about players saying they're great buys. Did they ever buy them? No. But why? Because they're using these programs and they're worried about their rank. They're not there to win it. I watched the walking video between Harry, Oscar, and Raptor. And Harry basically said, I'd rather finish 5K every year rather than win the bloody thing and never finish in the top 10K again.
Yeah. It's a very fair point what you make there about FPL Harry, when he says about playing it safe almost to secure the top 5K ranks rather than try and win it, because he doesn't want to have that failure on his record. And for me, I do want to win this game. And my whole story, the whole thing about me books, my channel, everything is about trying to become the best player I can be so I can win this game. And I am trying to do that. And it's just this year, it's not working. And that's why this is why I'm using this year now. I'm thinking about these analytics programs, because is this an opportunity to experiment with a slightly different approach? We've talked a bit about the eye test and, looking at the games and stuff, but, I recently qualified for psychology degree. I got a first class degree in psychology. And one of the big things I learned on that is that the eye test is misleading. The way people see the world is misleading. If you had 10 people at a crime scene and you asked them what happened, you'd get 10 different stories, and it would be very easy to lead people to the answers you want by asking questions in a particular way. And now, what some would say is that what these programs do help with is cutting through the inaccuracies of our deductions that we see through our eyes. Do you think something like that is important? Do you think that can be used well in that way to kind of deduce, make our own deductions, and then look at these programs to kind of confirm or challenge our thoughts? Or do you think they're just not worth using at all and we should trust our own instincts?
I just don't think they're worth. I don't think they're worth wasting your time. That time in life is valuable. Looking at stuff like that I would classify not valuable to life itself. And considering I watch football, like I bring it back to a couple of things. I'm a hash trained teacher, and I've dealt with a lot of teenagers that say this person said this and this person said that. And I'm like, oh, and I bring it back down to, well, someone can write a story. How do you know it's actually true? How do we know, for example, that 2,000 years ago, the Egyptians built the pyramids? Because it's written down in a text. Someone told it, whatever. Like, unless you were there or saw it, and I know this is not really quite relevant. And
I'll tell you now, I'll interject now. I'll allow you to run with this conspiracy theory angle, but if you start saying things about COVID or anything like that, I'm gonna cut it from the video. I can entertain conspiracies, but I am not having politics or that sort of nonsense.
No politics.
Talk about aliens, that's fine. You want to say FPL Harry has been beamed down from the planet Neptune with one sole thing to robotically analyse the FPL things and consistently finish as high as possible, that's fine. You want to say Ben Krellin was created in a lab to funnel his way right to the top of the FPL world rankings, that's fine. I will entertain them. If you start going on about politics or flat earth or any of that nonsense, I'm going to cut it. So, there you go. So, and if you, and I'll just say to the audience, if you want to debate these things in the comments, feel free. But they are the only comments I will not respond to. I respond to all my comments, but I'm not entertaining that nonsense.
So, essentially, what I was trying to say is like going, data when it's just put there, unless XG, right? Let's talk about XG. Some people say it's rubbish. Some people say it's a really good underlying number for, potential for attacking returns or whatever. And you mentioned it before. Like, for example, Bruno got 0.67, 0.6 XG, whatever it was into last night's game against West Ham. Of those chances, were any of them really like chances where you would expect him 100% to put the ball in the back of the net every single time? If you based it off the stats that would get spewed to you in Solio review, whatever program you're using, you'd say yes. If you watched the game, then you'd know the chance might have looked good, but it really wasn't as good as they would have you believe on a piece of data. And I think that's my issue with it. More than anything, I was like going, there's only so much you can read from data. Obviously, I've got a school data. I've got to sift through like A's and B's. Where are our kids deficient in reading, writing, and maths and stuff like that? That can only help you so much. For example, like a kid can be colorblind, and the reason why they're actually not doing it is not because they've got a deficiency. It's because the piece of paper is no good for them, and they can't differentiate the colors that are on there. You're not going to know that unless you're actually there present in that class. If I'm just sitting there looking at a screen of numbers, I'm never going to know that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a better way of looking at it. I think that's what I was trying to get to.
Via the Egyptians building the pyramids.
Yeah, the Egyptian pyramids.
Well, I think we'll just leave that one there and move on because I don't quite know how to respond. I get your point. I do get your point. And, so, right, I want to put a couple of things to you because they all tie together. In my last video, FPL Fran, he made the argument that having one great season is the equivalent of rolling a dice, but to consistently have great seasons, it will become very difficult as these models become more prominent in the FPL user base. And then on Twitter, somebody I follow, FPL Cafe, they said that as these models become more and more sophisticated, and as time goes on, understanding of them will become essential, even if only to know what we are up against, and that letting go of romantic notions of winning the right way and accepting these models can teach us a lot is a process of maturation. How would you respond to those points?
I would say that the only reason that would ever happen is because we're living in a simulation and the robots are basically saying what they're doing. No, I mean, it's impossible. Like, football is a game of random chance. I've sat there when I was under 16s, right? I'll just bring it back there to an actual story I can give. We statistically lost 10 goals to 1 to the top team, who went undefeated the regular season, right? 10-1. They beat us the second time, 6-1. No model would have predicted that we beat them in the final 3-2. No model. So if you really believe that a model is going to outwit, like, it's going to actually start predicting what the results are, then obviously we're not living in reality, because no computer can predict the result that's going on, that's about to happen. We don't know if, for example, we don't know when Saka's going to get next injured. No program can predict that. No program can predict when we brought in Cunha and captained him, did he get injured in the first 20 minutes? But he did. It happened. So I feel like I understand that maybe they believe in that themselves, but there is no way in a game of chance. And like, Fran, I understand what he's saying. Like, if you keep doing that, it's a roll of the dice. Well, most of our decisions are a roll of the dice. Bruno Guimaraes versus Minte this week, a roll of the dice. This week I got it right. Bruno Guimaraes outscored Minte and he started on the bench. That was a roll of the dice whether he'd start or not. I mean, the whole game is based on essentially luck and a fair amount of indeterminables we can't actually control ourselves. We've just got to hope that the ideas that we have about players and about teams are actually correct. But that's not to stop. So, for example, Arsenal, they've got Wolves in game week 16. There's nothing to stop Wolves from actually winning that game 1-0. And our best ideas, every model predicting an Arsenal clean sheet, it'll be well over 50% in that game, and them to score multiple goals. There's nothing to say that Wolves just won't turn around and win at 1-0. And I think that's my argument against them, as I go, and yes, it's easy to predict a certain amount of points for a player over a 38-game week. You add up all their scores and you divide it by 38 from the season before, they're probably going to average that over the course of the next 38 games. But that's not going to tell you what's going to happen. And you talked about it like in your mini in that league or whatever, where like the variance was meant to be about 10 points. It's actually about 160. No model's predicting that.
Yeah, well, that just to expand on that was on above average FPL. Adam from Above Average, he said that in his mini league, the variance between two teams, the predicted scores was a 6 points difference, and the actual difference was 169 points. And I mean, it's just wild, isn't it? When you think of it like that, predicted difference 6 points, actual difference 169, and it's like, it just feels like I'm on the wrong end of that, and it's doing my head in. Oh man,
someone's got to be on the wrong end, right? So that's how they get the average.
I tell you what, like, when I wanted to put those points to you because I do think they're interesting, but like that second one about maturing, it's a sign of maturity to use these things. I would actually cut back on that a bit myself. I'd push back on that, because you could say the same about AI and art, and you could say, oh, it's a sign of maturity to use these programs that'll produce the pictures for you, but you're not going to get the feeling, you're not going to get the soul, and that's where the soul versus Solio debate comes in. You know, I watch my wife make her paintings on the canvas over there. You know, sometimes you can see them in the background of my videos, but often I make it dark so you can't really see them that well. You know, she does all her paintings. Are they perfect? No. Are the lights always spot on? Is there the odd brush stroke? You know, of course, these are imperfect, but they're real and they are better for the imperfections. And like you say, it's more interesting. I think it is more interesting to follow someone like you with your, you know, from the heights of the top 5K to the absolute bombs. I mean, your season's embarrassing. Like, You know, to be fair, like mine is as well. But if mine's embarrassing, then your fall from grace is even harder because you were higher than me and you're lower than me. And like I'm being harsh, but I'm doing it because I know you don't mind the banter. Like it is, you know, it's just the way it goes sometimes. But it's very real. What you are producing is very real. It is very uniquely you, and it's a sort of season that, you know, people like me and you, and I would even include someone like Late Riser from the FPL Wire. He's prepared to take gambles, and maybe he did have a bad season a couple of years ago, and he's maybe become a bit more cautious there. Andy Martin you raised as well. There are the Mavericks out there, and the FPL world is better off for people like that. But I just want to win. I want to win the thing. You know, I'm not above a little reducer in the 98th minute if giving away, taking a yellow card on the halfway line. I am not above a Joe Linton approach from time to time. You know, we all want to be Peter Beardsley. We all want to be Bruno Guimaraes, but the world needs Joe Lintons as well. So
I do.
It's just how much of the dark side do you want to embrace? So, right, one last question, because you've been very gracious with your time. Our mate Nick Triggerlips, he says... Well, I will know how much he watches my videos because of, I'm not going to tell him that I've made this question. But our mate Nick Triggerlips, you know, very experienced manager, he says FPL is not about taking risks. It is a process of risk management, of minimising exposure to devastating outcomes. Like he famously used his free hit in game week 13 because he was scared of, if he got it wrong, how it would... It wasn't about how many points he could gain. It was about how many points other people could gain on him if he was wrong, and he didn't want to risk it. Now, he is historically one of the greatest FPL managers of all time. He's got 4 top 1K finishes. He finished 35th in the world, which is, you know, something none of us, very, very, very few people, only 35 a year, will ever get to experience that top 35 ranking. And yet the approach you advocate is very different, far closer to my own. But why should I stick with this approach when it's proving so disastrous, when I can look at Nick Triggerlips, who has finished higher than any of us with his risk management strategy and is ahead of us again by a considerable margin? Why should I ignore the advice of the legendary veteran to listen to the new breed of FPL style in yourself? Do I not owe it to myself to explore Trigger's approach?
I think that Triggs lost his way. he's been herded up by the shepherd that is FPL Harry, and I mean I'm not gonna lie, I love Trig, and Trig, hopefully you take this the right way, Trig, because it's not meant to be sitting there whatever, but I feel like Trig has become too involved in the analytics and worried about what other people are doing instead of playing the game himself. And he's missed out on points. I actually think that Trig would be inside based off the way he started. He got the bench boost game week 5, which was really good. He obviously went very different there and did very well with that. Wildcarded him 4, which was a bit different to a lot of people as well. And since then, he's been too worried about what other people are doing and protecting rank rather than going for it. The man should be inside the top 10K. With the way he started, Andrew, and the tips and he got 30-odd points from his bench boost. And he's almost, I mean, hold on, I'm just going to pull it up. But I feel like I'm not actually that far behind him. Like, I'm within 100 points. And, like, I've wasted a triple captain for 2 points and he got 16. And I've wasted a bench boost for 4 points and Trig got 30-odd. I mean, if you take them out and I actually got the same amount, I'm probably matching him. And he's too concerned. Like, he's been so averse to taking hits, but he used to be more cavalier and take hits. And this year, he's missed out, obviously, on the Foden points. He talked about getting Foden, holding off the price rises, whatever. He just wanted to see what FPL Harry was going to do on his deadline stream and do that move.
He's going to kill you for this.
because I really rate him. And, like, it's annoying because, like, I listen to Triggs, the way he talks about players and that, and I really find what he has to say really insightful. But then I see him do the complete opposite of what he's talking about in his videos. I swear he used to be more of a risk taker. Last year, I swear he was taking more risks than what he's taking this year. I feel like this year it's all been about rank mitigation. I was like going, do you want to finish in the top? Do you want to win it? Or do you want to just finish in the top 100K?
Well, even this year, he was taking risks. You know, like you say, bench boosted with Anton's stack. Got a lot of grief. Got a lot of grief for that, even though he was the only person in the world that did it, and it paid off. And it was strange to me that he got that grief, and he was getting grief week after week after week for not having Semenyo. He's been proven correct in that assertion that he didn't need to bring him in. There were better options elsewhere. But like you say, it's recently he does.
But he was going to bring Semenyo in. He was scared of Semenyo, and that was the only reason why I was bringing him in, not because he actually believed really deep down that he was going to score points. He was more worried about what other people, like the fact that 50-odd% had Semenyo. And I was like, well, I'm selling him because I think he's crap. And I did. And I bought him Phil Foden for him. And I feel like he started the season off really well. And I feel like the more he's delved into Solio and the analytics, the worse he's, like, not the worst, but the more cautious and timid he's become rather than owning the decision. Like, he's held Gabriel for 3 price drops. I mean, why? Like, that's just losing team value. And, like, Trig always used to talk about team value, saying that team value is not important. Well, we're getting the likes of Cole Palmer back. We're getting the likes of Bukayo Saka back. These guys cost money. You need team value if you're going to, at some point, people like maybe me and you, where we've taken a bit more risk and moved on for hits and got those price rises, later on in the season, it will actually pay off because the players will be more expensive we want to buy, and then that means you're going to be sacrificing other areas of your team and having a Mark Guiui that might come off your bench for 0 points over the next 6 weeks when you actually need a playing player that will get you some points. And I think that's my argument. I'm like going, I rate him and I love the stuff he's talking about, but I feel like, especially the last 5 weeks, he didn't need a free hit. He did not need a free hit. And I know that it worked out kind of well, and he reckons that the free hitters weren't lucky. I was like, come on, you were lucky. I mean, Wolves should have scored in that game. If John Arias is not standing where he's going, you're blanket and the free hit's in the bin. I feel like I wish he was playing more of his own game. I feel like he's become really heavily reliant on other things that are not the way he thinks about the game. And he watches the games as well, like me. Like, he can watch them all, like, because we've got the thing. And I want him to go back to being the Trig that I know, the Trig that it takes those calculated risks, not just plays cavalier. I'm not saying he needs to play like us, which are very cavalier, but I feel like he's not taking any risk at all. It's like he's just happy with 200K or whatever it is. I'm going to play safe until I get my next lot of chips. And I don't think I want to see him, because he's way higher than us, push on. Push for the highest rank, not just sit there and worry about who's coming behind, because we're coming, and if he keeps playing like that, we'll catch him.
No, well, this is it. But it's interesting, you know, like in your absolute desecration of Nick Triggerlips as an FPL manager, the absolute burial of him as having any sort of worth of FPL content at all, in that little spell, what I would actually say is that he is an excellent manager, and his discussions on strategy are probably second to none in this community, I think, the way he talks about the strategy, but it is about the application of the strategy as well. I think I can talk a good game. Like, I feel like people can learn from what I talk about when it comes to FPL, but when it comes to actually pressing the buttons, something happens inside my head that makes me make the stupid choices, you know, that take a hit to get Nick Pope. Like, what's the point? You know, take a minus 12. You know, take a minus 12 to sell Joao Pedro right before he plays Burnley. Like, you know, like, it sounds stupid when you look at it in hindsight, but in the moment,
it sounds good.
What I would just put to you is, like you said, Trig started off brilliantly and now he's become very cautious. Now, what has happened over the same time is that he started off experimenting with Solio, and as Solio has improved over the season, he has got more invested in it. Do you think those two things are related? Do you think the caution is coming from Solio, or do you think the use of Solio is coming from the fact that he is feeling cautious because he had such a good start, perhaps?
I think it's coming from Solio. I actually think analytics is actually making Trig worse as a manager. Like, I don't think that he would have done some of the stuff if he was worried about. He does look. He looks at. He puts up Cunha's expected points versus Foden. Watch the game, mate. Foden is going to spank Cunha the next 6 weeks. It's a no-brainer decision. Yeah, he brought Cunha in. There's no way anyone in his man. Andy did the same thing. Let's talk FPL Andy, brought in Cunha. What games have they been watching? Andy's a Man United fan, so he's got no excuses for bringing in a player that's done nothing and has looked like doing nothing for most of the games this season.
Yeah.
I mean, that has to be an example of why analytics is not the way to go, because you wouldn't be making decisions like that. The Cunha has not been at the races pretty much all season.
So you think that actually the use... what I'm trying to get, I suppose, is do you think Trig's caution is driving his dependence on Solio, or do you think his use of Solio is making him more cautious? Which is driving the other?
I think it's him using the analytics. I don't think he'd be this cautious if he wasn't using them.
You think the Solio is infecting his soul, if you will?
Yeah.
to make it a bit more dramatic and...
Yeah, I can't put it down to anything else, because like at the start of the season he was way more decisive. More decisive.
I
agree.
agree.
Like, Solio's rubbish. These numbers they make no sense.
He was also a very big proponent of make early transfers, and rack up the team value. And now
he's
it's
waiting
like,
to the end.
yeah, now he's waiting to the deadline. Waiting for Harry. I did not say that. I did not. He doesn't need to wait for Harry. He can just press solve on FPL review. Well, you're going to get me in trouble here, Darius. No, what I would say, so we both respect Nick Triggerlips a lot. We do. He's probably the best manager we'll ever have regular contact with, and we love him to pieces. And we're going to finish.
And you should go and watch him, because he has really good talks on the players. Like, he's actually spot on with his analysis. It's just his application to his analysis that is slipped over the last couple of weeks, I feel.
Yeah, and to be fair, maybe it is a bit caution because he's higher than he expected to be at this stage. Who knows? But I don't know. I'd like to see him becoming a bit more daring. And you've actually...
The guy that's number 9, like, so he was 550 in game week, after game week 13.
Yeah.
The dude, instead of captaining Haaland, like, he didn't captain Haaland, and he got burnt the week before. So he captained Sharda. So Sharda got 3 points, did nothing, but it still actually beat Haaland, ironically, which is hilarious because every time I take him on, I lose. But he still beats him with a bloody Sharda 3-pointer. But then this week, even though he's had that Sharda did nothing, he goes a Hail Mary again and goes for Phil Foden. He goes from 550 up to number 9 in the world. I mean, that's the kind of moves I want to see Trig making, not this, I'm just going to do that because that's what everyone else is doing, so I'm just going to mitigate the risk. Whereas these guys that are at the top, they're looking at, okay, these guys are doing Haaland, how much further can I get in front of them? And they're playing and taking on calculated risks that are, at this moment in time, they're coming in for them. And I think that's what I'd like to see. I mean, same for Gary. I mean, like, Gary and Trigger, their ranks they're so much better than ours. I would do that. If I was in that position, I'd be like, let's go for it, baby. Let's get inside the top 10K. Let's get inside the top one. Let's keep pushing and taking these calculated risks. But I feel like it's all risk mitigation rather than calculated risk. It's you're not gonna gain if you don't take the risk.
But do you not think that using these programs would be able to show Gary, Minte is rated higher than every other sub 7 million midfielder? I now know all the content creators are going to push Minte in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to keep him for one more week and then switch him to Bruno Guimaraes or something, and I'm going to beat them because they'll send everybody else down the garden path.
Well, that's what I did.
That's what I wanted to do. No,
I looked at Minte because I was like going, the stats were, he was doing really well. Like, it was hard to ignore the fact that he was like 3 game weeks in a row, and I was like going, how long can he keep this going? How long can Brighton keep this going? Like, is this a new Brighton, or is it going to be the same Brighton that they flatter for a little while and then they just fall in a heap? And I was like going, realistically, Bruno Guimaraes, I really rate as one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. So if he's putting these kind of numbers up, and I think he's one of the best players in the actual league, I think he'll continue to do it. Why would I go for Minte instead of him? And when it's like there's barely any price difference, and I think that that's realistically where I went.
That's fair enough. Right, I've had enough of your time. Go on then, pal. Give me one last pitch to reject the overtures of the algorithm acolytes.
Well, what I put it down to, if all you need to do is ask yourself this question in life: if you sit there and want to read a book about, so for example, what's your least favorite thing you like doing in life?
Work. Cleaning, dusting, laundry. I hate the laundry.
Imagine that, you had to do the laundry, and like, you could either do it a really fun way, or you did it the real monotonous way where you had to wash one piece of clothing at a time rather than tuck them all in with a bit of fun and put the colours in with the black and whites and just hope for the best. Would you rather get it over and done with once and have fun doing it, or would you rather sit there and follow like this really rigid pattern and be like, oh my God, why am I doing this? This is so infuriatingly, like, this is not me. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I sit there and like, I'd rather sit there and pick players I love that I believe in based on what I've seen, based on the facts that are on the FPL website. And then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I hold my hands up and go, well, that was unlucky. It was bad luck. It was poor. I picked poorly, but at least I did it. It was me that decided it. It was my ownership. So that's why I'm like, I've had to backtrack a few times this season on certain players because I've got it wrong. I thought the Watkins and double Forest defense are going to be great. I thought for the start of the season, Spurs are going to be crap. They turned out to be okay at the start of the season. They've now gone back to being what I thought they were originally, crap. But I've had to sit there and own that. But I'd rather sit there and own it because I feel like that's more enjoyable for me making content, playing the game, rather than sitting there and watching someone that's like, all right, well, he's saying the same thing that he said. It's a bit like that Eminem song. She's saying the same thing that he said. That's what it'll be. And you won't enjoy it. I reckon you won't enjoy making the content. You'll be like, this is not me. There's no emotion. I'm just basing this and I'm getting my head confused by nonsense that's on the screen that's literally predicting that Anderson's getting the same amount of points as Virgil van Dijk, that's getting the same amount of points as Munoz over an average of 10 games. They're all averaging 4.3, 4.5, 4.7. What does that actually tell you?
It's a very strong argument. Thank you for coming on the channel today, Darius. I have had a wonderful time, a lot of laughs, and I thoroughly look forward to watching it back. You can find Darius over at the FPL D-Unit channel, and he is fantastic. And whenever you turn on YouTube at any point in the week, Darius will likely be live. He is a machine of FPL content. And if you only watch one of his things, I would go for the Late Mail. The Late Mail is fantastic, a lot of fun. It is the FPL D-Unit experience in a nutshell. And if you're one of the sickos, go and watch his watch-alongs because they are absolutely fantastic. So there we have it, and I'm not gonna lie, Darius told me everything the anti-analytics side of me wanted to hear. He praised my approach. He made me feel like a rebel. He convinced me that it is possible to win this game playing it your own way, following your own on rules, and I am tempted to sack off this analytics flirtation, I am. But like I said at the start, I can be susceptible to being told everything I want to hear. I need to reflect upon the conversations both with D-Unit and with Fran, and then I need to have one, maybe two more conversations before I decide whether to be Sol or Solio, and hopefully those conversations will be with you very soon. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss those, and thank you for watching. We will see you next time.